Listen to the rhythm of the falling rain. Yes, of course it's raining. Always rains on my day off, doesn't it? Sometimes I wonder, when I'm stuck here in house, my mind wanders and I think, I wonder if there is some omnipotent presence looking down on us, Wakes up in the morning, has a stretch. Oh, what have we got today? Trouble in Ukraine. Oh, no, let humans get on with that. What else? Cam's day off. No problem. Rain. Well, sunnier thoughts. Wednesday against Burton, 5-2. What an absolute goal fest, eh? So the way the games have been coming thick and fast, we did wonder if Darren Moore might make some changes. Don't think anyone particularly wanted him to after the great result of the weekend, but he did. He rotated the squad round, and that's what squads are for. And I hope that's what it is. I hope it is just a bit of squad rotation and let's make sure people aren't doing too much and getting strains rather than all these players coming back muddying the waters of selection and Anyway, Wednesday did make these changes. Gibson came into the back three, understandable. He looked really good when he came on as a sub the other week. He had, 45 minutes and he looks really good. And I can understand now why they've kept him on. Now, I say that because I am a bit of a mardy arse. Not all my fault, by the way, because Wednesday's record with injured players over the last few years has been absolutely bloody horrific. So, when he got injured, I would all, bloody send him back there. Why are we bothering? Why pay somebody who's fucked? I think the ghost of Alman Abdi still stalks the insides of my brain. Why are we paying this clown? But anyway, Gibson's looked really good, actually, to be fair to him. I've liked what I've seen. So he came back into the side. This meant a bit of a reshuffle, and at first I thought obviously Palmer's going to be playing in centre in midfield, and Hunt would be out on the right-hand side. But actually, they moved back quite a bit. They sort of swapped and interlinked. Oh, God, it was almost a little bit Dutch. One surprise, Sol came up front. I think that was a surprise to everybody because Berahino looked really good the other night. But he did retain a spot on the bench. So that was Wednesday's team. 3-5-2, Story, Hutchinson, Gibson, Palmer, Hunt, Luongo, Bannan, Johnson on left wing back, and Patterson and So up front. Now, I was interested to see the Burton line-up because as we looked at before the game, Jimmy Flloyd Hasslebainks is a manager that's not afraid to change his formations. In the last few weeks, he's played 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 3-4-1-2, and 4-5-1. So there were plenty of options available to me. It was interesting to see what he was going to do. We thought he'd match us up 5 across the middle, and as it is, that's exactly what he turned out to do. With the Burton lineup, it was a 3-5-2 with Garrett in net, Hughes, Brayford, and Borthwick Jackson at the back. Hamer, Osherlarger. Was he the lad that played for us for a long spell? I'm trying to think who was in charge. I don't know if it was Dave Jones, Stuart Gray. Osherlarger, anyway, I think he was a centre half back then. Guediora, is that how you say it? Well, they've just signed him from Pigs anyway. And then Cocolo on the left. Powell in an advanced midfield position. And up front, Ahadme and Niasse, who I gather they've just signed from Everton. That Niasse, is it? He caught Hutchinson, in second half. He went studs out like that, but he went in. He let him go in, do you know what I mean? He didn't try and put brakes on at all. And he got a yellow card, and rightly so, Hutchinson were down 5 minutes. But right back at the beginning of the game, this is where there's a bit of a shithousing. I bet it's only 5-10 seconds in, front centre, right at the beginning of the game, takes Story out like that. I mean, I think we only end up getting a throw-in, but should have been off. That should have been a yellow in that first 5 seconds of the game. I know refs said a bit, But if he gets card out there, he probably don't risk that injury that Hutchinson could have picked up later, because he could have been injured with that. Right, game review. Could have took lead after just 2 minutes. A really good start from Wednesday, and that thrown on the right hand side. Bannan, cute little 1-2 with Palmer, and it's a right ball from Palmer. That it's an arrowed cross. I mean, we talk about putting whip on them or cutting them back or sometimes floating one for somebody to get on. That's absolutely added across. Only needs a touch from Sunday. Johnson comes in round back, and to be fair to Garrett, he does well to recover and spin round and make safe from Johnson on back stick. Bannan cracks bar after what, 5-6 minutes. Ball in again from Johnson, fantastic ball. Beats man, has a look, puts a nice one in, and it's half and half whether their lad heads it or I'm going to give benefit of doubt that Patterson chests it down to him because I'm in a good mood. Bannan comes in, but he just takes an awkward bounce on him on the surface. If it bounces 2 inches further forward, I think he just hits that on half volley, and I think it leathers into the back of the net. But as it is, it comes a bit close to the body, and he had to do like a little skip to try and make sure it got above ball, which he did, and it was a great strike. But if that ball had fell 3 inches shorter, I think that's it back in net. But really good start. Palmer and Hunt are sort of swapping about. At first I thought Hunt weren't right, then I thought Palmer weren't right, but as it was, they just kept sort of, yeah, I'll go out there for 2 minutes, do you know what I mean? And that worked quite well. The concern was, why is either of them having to play in there? Weer'z Byers? Do you know what I mean? That would have worried him. Apparently he's just got a little bit of a strain, not a lot. He's going to be alright for the weekend. Good management from Darren Moore. Kid's been out injured for X many weeks through the season. He's come back and he's suddenly been playing Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday or whatever, and that's a lot of football in a short space of time you've been out. So common sense from manager. Did it really work with Hunt in midfield? I didn't particularly think it did that much. I know we're talking about a 5-2 win, but common sense from manager, and we got the results, so, you know. Anyway, back to the game. Keep distracting me, son. Just short 15 minutes on clock, Wednesday take the lead. Luongo in the midfield, drives on, has a look, plays a little ball into Sol. Everybody's been slagging Sol off, saying that he was crap last night. He weren't brilliant. I didn't think it was crap. Anyway, it's Sol who just turns with a ball, advances a little bit and knocks a nice little ball out to Johnson. So whatever folks say about him, he can say, well, I played a key part in that vital opening goal. Johnson, little shift at body, looks up, and this is what we've been talking about for weeks, variation of your crosses. So we've seen that lovely drilled zip one earlier from Palmer. This one, he just puts it in space. For years you hear people say, don't try and hit man with your cross, because it's always going to end up behind them if they don't move. He just puts it into space. Patterson's a bit unlucky not to get on it, and then Liam Palmer's in round back, hammers it home. Right pleased for him, because he's another one who takes some unmerited shit. Dead pleased for him to get a goal, and Wednesday on the way. What's surprising me at this stage is Burton set up with a 5-man midfield. We knew they'd do that, but what surprised me is they've got a lad playing quite advanced. Then they've got the two sat in front of that who are getting picked up by Hunt and Luongo, and it's just affording Barry Bannan the absolute freedom of the pitch. He's basically just doing what he wants. He's popping up on left wings, popping up on right wing, in hole behind strikers. He's all over the show. They've given him the absolute freedom of Hillsborough, and with the quality he's got, he's had a sensational game. I mean, we nearly get a second goal 2 minutes after the first, and again it's an attack up the right. Palmer again, lovely little back heel from Bannan, plays him back in. Palmer drives onto the byline like bloody Jarzinho and cuts it back, and Patterson's just out-muscled, although it did take 5 men to do it. Just under half an hour gone, we do extend lead, and it's Barry Bannan, and it's a fantastic goal. I have talked about Bannan's lack of goals during his Wednesday career, and I'm sure it's probably something he'd admit to himself that he should be getting 1 or 2 more. And the one thing I've talked about a lot is getting under ball. I don't know if it's because he's like me, a midget. It's that thing getting under ball. Sometimes it's like his body's a golf wedge. Last few weeks, I talked about it in the review of the, I think it was the Rotherham game, it might have been. He's getting his strikes nice and hard and low, and that is exactly the strike we get here. Great work again by the much maligned Palmer. I'll keep saying it. He's not getting credit he deserves. Down the right hand side, ball into Luongo. And Luongo, we talk about this all the time, his composure. He looks to beat the man. The angle's blocked off. He don't panic. He don't blast it off him and try and get a corner. He just holds it up, turns again, and then flips a little lazy crossing. When I say a lazy cross, I don't mean he's being lazy. I mean a lazy ball, a nice little flipper into the box. Go on, son, get up for that. Well, their defender gets up first, but because of the way it's coming down, he can't get any real purchase on it. Knocks it out to edge of box, and Bannan sets himself, little nudge, and like I said, nice, hard, low shot. Boom, in off post, perfect. Because flying over to bench and all to see that Smith character won at coaches, so it makes me wonder if there's something there, if they've actually been looking at that with finishing and keeping shots hard and low. You never know. But anyway, Wednesday 2, Burton 0, and looking good. Playing really well, 2-0. Recent weeks we've had really good performances, and that's what I've been saying all season. I want to see good performances. The results have been really good as well, apart from the anomaly at Rotherham when we battered them. But it's the performance levels. But we still had a typical Wednesday moment in the game, which Burton scored from the centre. Comes up the left-hand side, it's a throw-in. They win the header in the box, and it comes out, and it's Guardiola, who they've just signed from them lot down the road. It's a good clean strike with left foot. It goes to a right crowd scene. Now I've seen one or two people. Well, Peacock Farrell's got to save that. A, I don't think he can see it. There's that many bodies in way. But B, the way his feet move, I think it's took a clip off somebody on way through and wrong-footed him, because it isn't centre at goal. I mean it's a lovely hit, by the way, but it's a warning shot across the bows for Wednesday to keep switched on. I'm going to say it again. I cannot believe that they've given Bannan the space that they're giving him in this game. Nearly everything good that Wednesday do is coming through him. He's spreading the play. He's doing that little pirouette turn, which sometimes can wind me up, but it's working to good effect because he's just spinning and popping the ball out of the side this time, and they're going one way, and then he's spinning and popping it, and then Matt, to be fair to Burton though, they were having a pop and they were quite open. I mean, it was nothing like that Charlton performance the other week, which I thought was very poor. And they weren't actually trying to play. Wednesday, for their part though, we weren't pressing 100% from front. We were like dropping off and saying, okay, have ball a bit, and then we'll hit you. And they were doing that really well Wednesday. In fact, we should have had a third. It was just, I think it was just before half time. But again, it's Bannan. He kept drifting into this outside right position and this inside right position, and inside left position, and just linking with Johnson on the one side and Palmer and Hunt on the other, and he was just getting that much space. And again, he just cuts inside, kills one round to far post. He's unlucky there not to have a goal there, because that's another lovely spank, and it would have been enough same post and all, wouldn't it? He's had a blinder. Wednesday did another different corner. I know I get excited about these sad little things, but we talked last week about all them arrow deliveries we were trying to the front post, and that it was a definite method in the madness trying to get something in there because they'd got quite a small goalkeeper. Earlier in the season, when Dunkley was in and around the team, we were putting them corners out to just a couple of foot outside the penalty spot and getting him on plenty of everything. Yesterday, 2 or 3 times or so, we worked, I won't call it a short corner, but Bannan would knock a simple ball out, and then we worked it to get a deeper crossing. We nearly got a goal from that. That was 50 minutes, something like that. Over on the far side between North and Cobb, Bannan, Johnson, and it ends up, and Palmer flicks a little ball in to back post, and it clearly something they've worked on. Story gets around back stick and is a bit unlucky, but really good to see Wednesday working on different variations of set pieces. So we're in at break, safe at 2-1, and we come out, and I want to stick up for Burton here a bit, because the lower mid-table, they're in a similar position to Charlton were. I've got far more respect for Burton because they came out and they actually gave it a go, and fair play to them, because it opened it up. It was an expansive game of football. There were plenty of space out there. Now, obviously, I'm going to say that because they left loads of space and Wednesday completely bloody exposed it, but I just thought they gave it more of a go. And if I'm a fan, would I rather mid-table watch a team like Charlton fanning about, trying to keep it tight at back, tip-tapping about, or would I rather see my team doing a Burton and actually going out and having a go? Well, I'd rather watch what Burton were watching than what Charlton were watching. As I said, as a Wednesday fan, I enjoyed it because we completely exposed it. But second half, they came out and they had a go at it again. And Wednesday, for their part, despite, I would say, dominating the quality possession, did struggle in some turns because they were a physical unit, and they got some really big lads. And I've talked to you in recent weeks about Wednesday's improvement in the air, the number of headers we're winning, but defensive headers, midfield headers last week. There were little spells when it was a scrappy game for Charlton, but Luongo, Byers, even Bannan, headers all over the place. and we have improved in that area, but these more than matched us for that. These were a decent team at air. They were a physical unit. And as it proved, they got back in the game because of their attitude towards not giving up the goals like a lot of teams do. And it was that Niassi that scored. So Wednesday come out all guns blazing second half. They've obviously got a taste for blood and we make a really positive start. But it's Burton who equalise. And this is what I'm on about. Fair play to them. They come out and give it a go. With loose possession of the ball over in the north stand. It comes back this way. Cocolo plays a little ball in. They don't look to be much on. But he manages to turn. Luongo ends up on wrong side of him. And Stories end up facing him up from about a foot away. So he's straight on a bit flat-footed. And Kidd just manages to turn and just make enough of a gap to just edge round him and tap shot into the far post. And I would say that is the one slight weakness that I've seen in Story's game. I think I mentioned it in the Rotherham game. And it was a Wigan game a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes on the floor, he can have that thing where he steps in a little bit tight and is susceptible to that little spinning behind. But if he's a yard off, he just turns into him, doesn't he? But other than that, fantastic. But they're back in the game. From a really positive start to second half for Wednesday, they're back in the game, and he has been an handful, that Nias. But I mean, I don't think he should be on park for that elbow on Story in first minute, but that's just me. So Wednesday's got a game on their hands now. A real game on their hands. They've had a 2-0 lead and they peg back now to 2-2. And these have been giving it a good go, by the way, Burton. Now, we've seen this before from this team, the last 3-4 years. Look at all the goals they conceded from the 90th minute up to 98 minutes in injury time. Week after week after week, we saw this thing happen and everybody, oh God, here we go again. And we talked about Wednesday not having a backbone. We talked about them not having a spine. We talked about them not having mental strength and fortitude. Pegged back from 2-0 at Hillsborough, you could understand it. The crowd going quiet, you could understand them shrinking. But they didn't. And you could see it. You could actually see it. I'm not talking about witchcraft here. I ain't got the second sight. But you can see attitude. You can. Because the shoulders didn't go down. They were still up there. They didn't start backing off, because that's another thing that you see at every level of the game. Getting pegged back, that line starts dropping, doesn't it? Didn't happen. You can see the positive mental attitude that these players have got. Yeah, we've conceded. Yeah, we've been pegged back. We're drained now. But no, we're going to get hammered again. And they did. And to me, honestly, seeing the players with that attitude after losing a 2-0 lead, that's more important to me than the scoreline or the sort of quality of the football that we played, because you get a lot further with that than just playing nice football or just scoring some wonder goals. That attitude, fantastic to see. But we weren't in a game. These weren't afraid to have a bash. Like I said, it's credit to Burton Albion that they came out and were like, no, we're not shrinking violets. We're not just going to go into a shell and start knocking it about on our 18-yard box, hoping not to give it away. They come forward again. And they did have a little spell, and Wednesday were looking under that little bit of pressure, because these weren't afraid to pop a ball into the box. They got that Nias up front, the other lad had to make... They weren't afraid to get up. And it weren't even about winning the first ball. They weren't afraid to pop it in there, and even if the Wednesday defender won the header, and play off the second ball and get that Powell up there behind the front two and play in little spaces and pockets around there. So Wednesday really had to be on the metal against this, because these weren't afraid to mix it up a bit. You know, they came out and had a good pop. Now, Darren Moore, to his credit, recognised that they were having a little spell and that he needed to change things up. And he brought Berahino on for Sol. I've seen Slow getting slated. Do you know what? 30 years ago, before Twitter and this and that, I don't think he'd have got slated for that performance. He'd have probably had one or two folks coming out at ground going, it weren't his best game, he was a bit quiet. I don't think you'd have seen the level of vitriol and point scoring that we see these days. But he had a quiet game. He was involved in the first goal, but we needed to hold the ball up more. And I don't think he's that sort of player. I think he's a player that likes to just have a touch, a layoff, and try and get forward, or have a little jink at somebody. So he brought Berahino on. I saw he's a bit bigger than Berahino, but actually Berahino's hold-up play has been far better. And when I'm talking about holding up play, I'm not just talking about with your back to goal and just standing there holding two centre halves off like bloody Hercules with the fucking pillars. No, you can hold the ball up by actually having a little run or a turn or a little jink and then a stop and then another jink and a stop, and it gives your lads the chance to get themselves further up the pitch again. And he came on and he was very effective at that. Little touch out, the defender goes with him, then he's back in, and it just buys that few seconds for Wednesday's midfield to squeeze up. So, positive change from Darren Moore, full credit, nice and early again. Although in honesty, he's made decent early changes nearly all the season, even when the results were shit. His subs would be 65 minutes, the latest is his first sub. Not one of these managers who, it's 87 minutes, I'll chuck somebody on. He's always made these changes. It's only now that we're winning I think that he's getting the credit for it. But if you look back for the season, he's made early changes. So Berahino comes on, links with Patterson. Patterson. He's had a great game. There's a bit at end. It's just rugby tackles there, lad. I'll probably come to it, but love him. Oh, Gibson. I wouldn't know his face if I saw him in the street because I've seen him that little. But there's a bit just around about, I don't know if it's just before or just after Berahino's on, I can't really remember, but he gets the ball and he just marauds 60 yards up pitch, 70 yards up pitch. It's a full, he's not got the pace of a Paul Warhurst or a Majid Bugera, but it's that sort of marauding run. He just goes flying up left-hand side and he actually arrows a nice ball to back post, which is a surprise. It usually centre-halves get that far up pitch, nosebleed, and they just skank ball somewhere, don't they? But there's a nice ball. Palmer knocks it back in. Their defender makes a bit of a cock up with Claydon's, and who's in there? It's bloody Gibson. He's in there, and he doesn't just centre half it into their man and try a daft volley into a wall of players. He actually does a right nice little turn. It's like, oh, where's that come from? Little turn, drills it across with left foot, and honestly, it's not far wide at post. I mean, it would have been a right goal, starting from being right deep back there, 70-yard burst, ball to one side at box, back in on return, little turn. Oh, it would have been wonderful for him, but I'm sure he'll just be pleased to be out there on park and getting games, but that would have been a right goal. Wednesday retake lead, cop end, big Callum Patterson. It's not an header actually, Bannan puts ball in, he just evades Berahino and Patterson's there. I was going to say he hits it hard and low, it ends up high back at net. I think he's drilled it into the floor, but he's in the right place at the right time. 3-3. I still don't think he's a striker, but 3-3, brilliant. Dead pleased for him, dead pleased for Wednesday. And as I said, it shows that resilience. Wednesday start growing again, really growing again. Burton's had this little spell, they've mixed it up a bit. That Powell's a decent player actually, by the way. He's got a nice left foot, I quite like looking at him. But Bannon's now really calling old shots. He's just pinging ball all over. He's popping up here, there and everywhere. And that, I think that's the way the two teams were lined up. That they both lined up with a player in a sort of go and do what you want role. So Powell for them were floating about and Bannan for us. But the space Bannan would have afforded, he had an absolute field day. In fact, we nearly scored again. It was another brilliant little lofted ball. Johnson gets down the left. He manages to just gets at byline, loop one back across, and I actually think it's a good penalty shout. Jack Hunt just gets flattened from behind by there, lad. He's got his eye on ball, but he knows exactly where he is. He's looked before he's come in, and he's. But Wednesday started to turn the screw again. Been talking earlier in this video and last week about, especially last week, Charlton, Wednesday attempting them near post corners, and if they get flicked on, they're almost impossible to defend. And people were getting frustrated because Bannan put a couple into the side netting and a couple got headed away. Did one again. This time Luong goes up near post, gets that flick out, and there's Marvin Johnson. Just steps onto it, half volley, just as it's on rise. Whoosh! It's a right spank. Reminds me of a goal I scored a number of years ago. Up at Goodwin, full size pitch, right in corner. Of course, they've knocked that down now, haven't they? Knocked them pitches down now, it's going to be a new building. But that memory's tucked away. Basga's close with a a curling effort, little 1-2 with Patson. He gets back in on his right foot, it's not far away. But he eventually gets a goal. It's in a very similar position. He takes a square pass from Hutchinson, who's marauded forward. And you know what I love about this goal? He ain't leathered that. It might look like he's leathered it because he's 20 odd yards out. It might look, watch it back when highlights are out. He don't leather that. If he leathers that, it probably goes over the bar, but he don't. He just looks, he has that little touch, and he wefts that. He's got pace on it, but he wefts that over at keeper into the far post. That's not a latest. That's a lovely goal. And 5-2, goal fest. I'm glad we conceded 2 today. Hear me out. I know it's not good for goal difference and out like that, but I'm glad we conceded 2 because it gave them Wednesday players the opportunity to show that Wednesday crowd and all the throngs at Hillsborough. It gave them that opportunity to say, right, watch us now. This team has got a backbone. This team has got bollocks. We will go out and get a result today because, as I mentioned earlier, so many times over the last 4 or 5 years would have crumbled when they made it back to 2-0. So although you don't want to concede goals, I'm glad we did concede them too because we've been having a good run. Everyone's full of positivity, and conceding goals like that can put you on a setback. Here we go again. But in a way, I'm glad we have because it showed we can cope with different aspects of the game. We can cope when we're well on top and we're cruising. It's easy to do well when you're playing well and winning games. But when you have these little setbacks, it's how you respond. And I'm glad. Honestly, I'm glad we conceded them too because it just gives them the opportunity to say, this is what we're all about this season now. This is the new Wednesday. And I'll tell you what, have a little look at that form guide. There's going to be 1 or 2 managers in this division now. We're going to be looking at that and going, oh, fuck, Wednesday are coming strong. And there we are, look at this. We'd scraped in there at the weekend and now 3 points ahead of Wycombe. 2 points ahead of Sunderland and a game in hand. 2 games in hand on Oxford. Like I said, there's going to be teams now, there's going to be managers out there looking at this and looking at this form guide and thinking, bleeding hell, here we go. The Wednesday are coming.